大家好，欢迎。我希望你们都有好的身体。今天我喝一杯咖啡，这样的。最近我们的世界看起来可怕，所以我们应该我们应该互相照顾。Hi, hello everyone. Welcome. Hope you're all doing well in good health. Today I'm drinking some coffee, and I know recently our world seems scary, and that is why I think we should really help take care of each other, right? Because things are crazy, and there's so much news, so many things to talk about, and I have so little time. And I want to say, 好久不见, long time no see. It's been a while. It's been a few weeks since I've done this. It just hasn't worked out. I typically do this on Thursdays when I'm home by myself and I just talk. Haven't had that opportunity. Last week, fiance was sick. She had COVID. The week prior to that, we were in Chicago for a psychology conference. Chicago was nice. I really like Chicago. Um, 在 Chicago 我出国唐人街. I went to Chinatown when I was there, so that was fun. Obviously, they speak Cantonese. I speak Mandarin, so there was no speaking of that sort. I just wanted to go and visit because it was so close. It was so close, and I've been to Chicago before that. I went last summer. Didn't really get a chance. Um, Really, I like it when places have a Chinatown or some a town of some other culture. It's just really nice. It's really nice to see that. So, anyways, yeah. On top of that, I've just been trying to do schoolwork. Um, I've been going to work. I work on daycare. High stress job. It keeps me tired and exhausted. So only so much. There's only so much time in the day. I work. I'm out of the house for 9 hours a day during the week. Except for Thursday and today. Obviously, I'm supposed to have every other Friday off. Things have been so weird lately. I even asked for every Friday off because I need time to do schoolwork, and currently I don't have enough time to be able to do all the schoolwork that I have because I would like to have it done by Friday so that I can have a free weekend. But because of work, I can't do that. Um, but yeah, so I guess I don't even know what I want to start with. There's a couple of topics that I wanted to talk about, and I guess I'll start with the or the bigger stories, and that is the illegal war that Trump and Netanyahu have waged against Iran. There are so many aspects to this that it's I obviously cannot explain everything. I don't even know where I want to go with it. This is again this these let's talks are just me kind of talking out loud. So, as we all know, Trump administration, unleashed Operation Epstein's Fury, um, going to war at the behest of Israel with Iran. Now, people they're trying to manufacture consent for this war. This war is very unpopular. Excuse me, Democratic voters. Um, I think it's like 80-90%, depending on of which poll you look at, are opposed to this war. Roughly around 60% of independents are opposed to this war. And obviously, the Republican base, especially the MAGA camp, which is obviously a cult, are very much in favor of this war. And it's just because dear leader has waged the war. I am fully, I fully believe that if it wasn't Trump and it was Kamala Harris instead waging war against Iran, then Republicans would be against it. I don't know. Um, I can't say that I believe what's the word? I can't say that I believe the opposite to be true. If Kamala Harris was president waging war against Iran, if Democratic voters would be for it. I can't say that with confidence. Now there could be an argument that yeah, Democrats would. It could be just a full split, or they could still oppose it because I mean obviously we've seen this before with Iraq, right, and Afghanistan. Those wars were absolutely costly and um, they were illegal. They killed millions of civilians, thousands of American troops, and it was extremely costly, right? And so, like, Americans suffered, have suffered tremendously from these endless wars, these very expensive wars, and and so now after a 20-year long war against terrorism, yada yada. Here we are again. We've seen it, so I don't think Democratic voters would actually be in favor of it if even if Kamala Harris did it. Um, and it's wild too because um obviously during the Biden administration, the Biden admin was extremely supportive of Israel's genocide in Gaza. Biden is and was a very rabid Zionist and was just doing it for the love of the game. He was doing it for the love of the game, and nobody, prominent in the administration, which was pushing back on it. Everyone was saying, "Well, no, we have to increase the funding to send to Israel so that they can bomb more kids, bomb more women, bomb more grandparents, bomb more dads. We have to do that. We have to do that for them." Completely disregarding the 78 years prior to October 7th. October 7th was the most was the worst tragedy that has ever happened in that part of the world, right? Obviously, it was terrible. Innocent people died that day, and so the thing is that people think like Zionists will say that will act as if history started on October 7th, which it obviously did not. There has been atrocity after atrocity committed by the Israeli government for 70 plus years. And they've always looked for a way, for a great excuse to really amp up their ethnic cleansing and their fascist ideology, their apartheid. They want to do all this. Israel is a fascist state, is ethno supremacist, and it does not want Palestinians anywhere on the land. Gaza has been an open air prison. Now, you might know this, that Israel actually occupied Gaza for a while, and they decided, 20 years ago that they were going to get out. So what did they do? They moved hundreds of thousands of Israelis out of Gaza. They forcefully moved Israelis out of Gaza. They decided that Gaza. They decided that this wasn't like, oh, we're gonna give the Palestinians this strip of land that is Gaza. They basically decided that they didn't want to be in. They didn't want to use the expenditure on that area. So kick all the Israelis out, block it off, and create an open air prison, in which 2 years ago or 2.5 years ago now, they started their genocide in the Strip. And so for 2.5 years that's been going on. President Trump gets elected. Now Netanyahu has his favorite toy in power. So Netanyahu now gets even more than he was getting under Biden, and Biden was doing it for the love of the game, whereas Trump got there's some dirt on Trump, right? And so obviously now Trump is acting at the behest of Israel. You had Miriam Adelson give Trump millions of dollars. So you got all this going on. So Marco Rubio, if you guys didn't know, after the initial strikes, which America struck first, like during talks, right? During said talks with Iranian officials, America strikes first. And Marco Rubio, came out in an initial statement like, yeah, so we were worried about an initial strike on Israel from Iran, so that we decided to actually do the initial strike at this worry or whatever the fuck. It was like his statement came out. The statement came out like as it actually is that Israel wanted America to do the first strike, so America went ahead and did it, and he was trying to swing it so that we felt an imminent threat. So before, which wasn't coming. There was no imminent threat, by the way. So they were just like, okay, well, we're gonna actually start the imminent threat. So we're gonna bomb first. Bomb a school full of children, full of little girls, killing over 150 of them. I think it was like 168, 170 total people died in this strike. This was the first salvo. And and then obviously comes the first obviously that happens, and then what follows is defenders of Israel were like, oh no, it wasn't an Israeli bomb or missile, it wasn't an American missile, it was clearly a misfired fucking Iranian missile that hit this school. I mean, literally just the same playbook. It's the same playbook to a T, and they're continuing to do this, by the way. They're saying that, so they said that, and then recently, if you've seen the news, came out that actually it was an American missile that hit that school and killed those children, right? And so people are still trying to play it off as if no, it was an Iranian misfire, which is just not the case. You want to know how we know? Well, it was a Tomahawk missile. Guess who has Tomahawk missiles? Now, obviously, there's three parties in this current war, right? There's Israel, there's America, there's Iran. America produces Tomahawk missiles. They do sell them to other countries, but guess who they don't sell them to? Iran. It was not an Iranian missile. It was a Tomahawk missile, which is an American missile. So obviously, it was not Iran. But people are still trying to claim that it was Iran that did the strike, right? And it's like, hey, no, These are the facts. This is what happened. We know what kind of missile it was, and America fired it. The evidence is clear. um, and so also in that opening salvo, they killed Ayatollah Khomeini, um, and they killed him in his house. So it wasn't even like some kind of great operation, whatever. They literally killed him in his home, and they turned him into a martyr. Obviously, and people have been like, oh, where was the left when the Iranian government was cracking down on those protests where thousands of people died? Which, by the way, I don't understand the necessary inflation of the death count on these, because like with these profiles, you see a higher number like each time, not based on any reporting, but they're just going with it. They're like, one account's like, oh, 30,000 people died, and then you see like the next account, 50,000 people died, 70,000 people died. It's like, you don't need to inflate the numbers. We already know it is an atrocity, and it's terrible. It should not have happened. We already understand that. So inflating that kind of minimizes the tragedy itself, right? Because like when you start inflating things, you make it you start to downplay it, really, because it's like, well, there's like, you're just kind of over here, you're exaggerating, you're lying about what actually happened, and you shouldn't do that. Just don't do that. You don't have to do that. We all understand that it's bad, and we were all saying it's bad. The left was saying it was bad. The left was also saying that people who are asking for America to drop bombs and to go into Iran militarily is a bad idea. And guess what? We were right. Thousands, almost, was it almost 2,000? It might be 2,000 at this point. Civilians have already died in Iran. People, like, you have to understand, American bombs do not differentiate between who is pro IRGC and who is anti IRGC. There's nothing there. A bomb is just going to bomb you. We saw what happened to a school full of girls. There was like a tweet about like calling the people being bombed as tyrants, and people were like, are you calling school children tyrants right now? Like, are we serious? It's the same playbook, right? You bomb, you kill a bunch of civilians, and you say, well, they're all tyrants, right? Gaza, every civilian is Hamas, right? It doesn't matter who it is that gets killed, they're all Hamas. Um, and lately they've been going with look at the numbers. They were military aged men. The same shit that they were saying when migrants were coming into the country under under the Biden administration seeking asylum. They're like, oh, look at all those military aged men. They're going to kill Americans, yada yada yada. The Okay, there's military aged men in Alabama. Are we gonna bomb them? The hell do you mean, military aged men? What does that mean? What does that mean? Does that mean 18 and older? Does that mean 16 and older? We don't know. Um, so yeah, just shit out of the same playbook. And there's just, and then obviously they had the Israel literally like did the worst fucking chemical warfare attack on Tehran, bombing the oil and literally setting fire to literally setting fire to the oil in Tehran. I can't remember. I don't know if it was a depot or what it was exactly, but it literally spilled into the sewers. You had sewers. I mean, just massive fires, massive smokestacks from these flames that has literally poisoned the air in Tehran. and is going to have lasting impacts. They literally have acid rain. They have literal oil falling out of the sky, and it's so toxic. They have done this. They have been bombing in other parts of Iran, just killing innocent people. And what have they done? They have only hardened the stance of people who were pro IRGC, and they've also um, doing such a thing, having such military action does not does not uh, typically, I mean, maybe in a couple instances, but it does not typically create a popular revolution. What it does is it brings more sides together because now they're fighting for their country. Iranians understand that if there's going to be change in the country, it has to come from Iranians, not from outside forces that are literally killing their families. And it's just like I don't understand how you can better communicate to people that no, this is not a good war. There's really no good war. The last war where America was on the right side was World War II. Everything after that was actual bullshit and just it was just anti-democratic wars. Like they didn't like democratically elected leaders, so they would decide that we're gonna go in and we're gonna fuck shit up. We're going to create famine in North Korea. We're going to kill millions of civilians in Vietnam and Cambodia and Laos and um, create lasting effects where people are still to this day born with still have birth defects because of all the chemicals that they use. North Korea doesn't have arable land to fucking grow crops. America destroyed 90% of their arable land with all the bombs that they dropped. It's insane. And now you look at Tehran with the with this where the city was on fire a few days ago, and it's toxic. And not only that, but that toxic air is also going to blow into other parts of the region. It's insane. This is madness. It is an atrocity. It is an atrocity. And not only are they bombing Tehran and or not only are they bombing Iran, but I mean they they America literally used a fake pretext to get an Iranian naval ship to go to Sri Lanka, and they sank the ship and let the fucking crew drown. How insane! How terrible can you get that you just they went for a military exercise? That boat had no weapons. That boat was not doing anything. They lured them there to do that and then let the fucking crew drown. You don't get worse than this. And then at the same time that all this shit is happening, Israel is continuing to kill Palestinians in Gaza. Israel is allowing fucking settlers in the West Bank to go around doing pogroms in the West Bank. The West Bank does not have Hamas. You, it's it's insane just how bad Israel is and has been for the region. Israel has always been the aggressor. Israel has always had this fascist expansionist project to where they force people out and then they move in. They've always done this. They have annexed land so many times, and there's some of it they've given back just because they decided that we don't want to spend the money on it right now. But it's not even their money that they're spending. It's our taxpayer fucking dollars going to their defense. Our taxpayer dollars go to them. Guess what? Israelis have health care. Did you know that? Israelis have access to higher education. It's paid for. Did you know that? We don't get that shit. Instead, our tax dollars have to be used to bomb children overseas. It's gotta bomb the guy who's working IT in Gaza. It's gotta be our tax dollars have to kill the fucking third grader off to school. Like, what the fuck are we doing here? What the fuck are we doing here? I'm gonna get to the spending in just a moment, but also you have Israel bombing the hell out of Lebanon. They have done mass displacements in Lebanon as the war with Iran has been going on. They have been bombing. They have displaced 750,000 Lebanese people in southern Lebanon. They have killed almost 600. They have killed a lot of children in Beirut. They are going in and they are leveling city blocks. What comes after? Look what they're doing in Gaza. In Gaza, they keep moving the lines. They keep moving their line further into Gaza. They have already brought in the bulldozers. They are already clearing it. They are going to start building there. The Trump administration has already unveiled their so-called, resort city in Gaza that they want to build, and it's going to be like a crypto city, whatever the fuck it is, dude. It's so mind-blowing how evil these people are. It's mind-blowing. It's just like, this has to be stopped. It has to be stopped. And that's why, like, I'm so frustrated with the fucking Democratic Party, because no one has the fucking cojones to go in and say, no, we're not doing this. With obviously, with the exception of a few people that are hardline against this war, you have Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries who aren't against the war. They just don't like the way that Trump decided to do it. Had he followed the process, they would have been fully on board. Chuck Schumer, man, there's no strength of leadership in the Democratic Party. Now, like, I get it. The Democratic Party is, a bourgeois party. It's not actually working class, and I understand the want and the need for a third party. However, how do we get there? We actually, I feel like we don't have time to get there. We don't. It's now or never, or not now or never, but it's like, it's just, that is a very long term plan. Okay, because we have other parties out there, but they don't have broad popular support. The Green Party does not have broad popular support. The Libertarian Party does not have broad popular support. We have this duopoly, and we're going to have to make it work in the interim. We're going to have to. Now, I wanted to talk about this because obviously, if we know how costly war is. We know how much the war on terror costs. The 20-year war in Afghanistan and Iraq. We know how much. We know it was expensive. I froze. In 11 days of the war, what just happened to my shit real quick? Hold up. What? I'm recording. That was weird. Okay, I was about talking about my microphone. In the short time of this war, America has spent over $11 billion. And that's like a conservative estimate. It's probably more. Mm. English toffee. I had to kill that though because it's getting too close to room temperature, and I will not drink room temperature coffee. So anyway, yes, this has been a very costly endeavor for the country, and It's absolutely insane. I got some political article here that I want to read, and I'm gonna read it quickly, and then there's another topic that I wanted to bring up today as well. So the U.S. spent. Oh, let me bring this up. I haven't done this in so long. God damn it! All right. Why does my phone keep ringing? Okay. So the U.S. spent about $11 billion last week on the Iran war, Pentagon officials said Thursday, offering the first public statements of the conflict's cost, and one Democratic lawmakers insist is much higher. So, like I said, this is kind of a conservative estimate of 11 billion. Jules Hurst III, the Defense Department's acting comptroller, said the figure was a ballpark number during a defense summit in Washington. His office is working on a more comprehensive figure for a supplemental budget request, he said, which the Pentagon plans to submit to the White House and Congress in the coming days. I didn't pre-read this, so I'm wondering if they're going to mention how much they're asking for. How much is the Pentagon asking for? Well, let's see if they mention it, because it's a hell of a lot. It kind of leaves you wondering, why the hell will we want to spend taxpayer dollars on such a stupid and illegal act? We're looking to make sure we make the right investment and capabilities, Hurst said. So it's not just replacing things, but buying new things too. That total, for comparison, is nearly enough to build a new naval warship, such as the Ford-class aircraft carrier. The Pentagon has given lawmakers preliminary estimates of operational costs, such as munition expenditures and flight costs, he said, declining to go into specifics. Here we go. Lawmakers have said they expect the Iran supplemental request to reach at least $50 billion. At least $50 billion. And I think there was an well, let's just continue. Based on their conversations with administration officials, the White House and the Pentagon have not confirmed that number. The administration also hasn't set a firm end date for military operations in Iran. Trump has said the operation could last for 4 weeks or more, but Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has refused to place a timeline on the missions. Outside analysts have offered varying estimates on the expensive Operation Epstein's Fury, which enters its third week on Saturday. An analysis from the Nonpartisan Center of Strategic and International Security put the cost of the first 100 hours of air and naval strikes at $3.7 billion. The conservative American Enterprise Institute has calculated the operational cost so far at between 11.2 and 14.5 billion. Senator Chris Coons, ranking member of the Senate Appropriations Committee Defense Panel, was among the Democrats who doubted that figure was high enough. I don't know whether that also includes all the operational costs of the ship's planes, fuel, staff time, he said. If they were to come back to us and say, this is how much we have spent on this operation, it would have to include months of preparation and deployment, as well as munition stockpile restoration, magazine refilling, as well as operational costs. So I think there was reports too of the Trump admin asking to increase military spending by like over $1 trillion. It might have been like 1.5 trillion, which is just insane. It's I hope I have that figure correct. I really don't want to I really don't want to butcher that. Let's see. Yeah, yeah, here it is. I was not wrong on this. Let's see if it loads. I don't know what's going on. What the hell's going on? Oh, there it goes. Excuse me. Trump calls for 1.5 trillion military budget in 2027, up from 901 billion in 2026. So one could assume that they plan for this war in Iran to last, and who knows how long. This, by the way, was the most peaceful president ever. Right? He was a peaceful dove. No new wars. No new. He was going to start no new wars, and here we are. He's bombed 7 countries prior to this, by the way, in his first year. So there's already that. So that was already out the window. Washington, January 7th, Reuters. President Trump said on Wednesday the 2027 U.S. military budget should be 1.5 trillion, significantly higher than the 901 billion approved by Congress for 2026, boosting defense stocks, but sparking skepticism among budget experts. Any such increase in the military budget would require congressional authorization, which could pose a challenge, although Trump's Republicans, who hold slim majorities on both the Senate, and the House of Representatives, have shown little appetite for objecting Trump's spending plans. Trump said in a Truth Social post that he made the decision on 2027 military spending after a long, difficult negotiation with senators, congressmen, secretaries, and political representatives, especially in these very troubled and dangerous times. In just the last few days, U.S. Forces seized Venezuela's Nicolas Maduro from his country. I'm sorry, this is a little old. When was this? January 7th. Okay. The White House has also said that Trump is discussing options for acquiring Greenland, including potential use of U.S. military. Trump has also deployed U.S. troops to police a number of cities across the country. The news follows separate Truth Social posts from Trump blasting defense companies for producing weapons too slowly. In it, he pledged to block defense contractors from paying dividends or buying back shares until they accelerate production. Trump said the extra spending would be covered by revenues generated by tariffs he has imposed on nearly every country and many industrial sectors, and the U.S. would still be able to reduce its debt and send dividend checks to moderate income Americans. Also, obviously, the tariffs are just a regressive tax, which the taxpayers are paying, right? So they're already paying their income tax, their property taxes, whatever other tax they might have to pay. And on top of that, we also have to pay more when we go to a store to buy something because prices have been marked up for goods that were shipped here. It's just a regressive tax, and also those dividend checks are never going to Americans ever. The Committee for Responsible Federal Budget and nonpartisan think tank estimated the proposal would cost $5 trillion through 2035, while adding $5.8 trillion to the U.S. debt with interest. It said only half of the cost could be covered by tariffs in place now, noting that the Supreme Court could rule that a large set of tariffs were illegal. The Bipartisan Policy Center estimates that combined tariffs raised $288 billion in 2025, well below Trump's own estimates, which have fluctuated around $600 billion in recent days. So yeah, it's this particular thing came up again recently. So obviously it's an old article, but it came up again recently for me. I was seeing it and I was like, interesting, because we already have a very bloated military budget, and the big thing that I want to talk about in terms of this, for me, just kind of like my opinion, it's like obviously there are people who share this opinion, but we've already spent between 11 and 14 billion dollars in the first couple of weeks of this illegal war that has been waged by by America at the behest of Israel, right? We have people suffering in this country the Trump admin is getting ready to kick even millions more people off of food stamps. So more people are going to struggle to afford to feed themselves and their families. We have schools who are we have schools that struggle to get the proper funding, not just from local and state taxes, but also federal um, from the federal government. So we have students who are suffering. Their education is suffering because we're not we're not spending resources on figuring out what it is that we need to improve education across the nation. We have children going hungry in this country right now, the richest country in history. We have children who are going hungry. We have children in poverty. We have all these things going on. And obviously, a lot of people have been quoting Tupac on this because it's true. We have money for war, but we don't have any money to feed the poor. Why? Well, because there's money to be made in war, right? So like this war is really obviously at the behest of Israel, but it's also for to help it's also helped the wealthy, the ultra wealthy, get even wealthier. That's what this is, and it should anger every American that we're spending all this money to bomb people who have not posed a danger to us in any respect. Now, the one thing the Trump administration has been trying to utilize in a way to garner support for this illegal and unpopular war is that Iran has been at war with America for 47 years, right? Which isn't it isn't the case. It is not the case. They if you I urge you to look into the history, like the more recent history of Iran. Obviously, Iran has a lot of history. Um, very old civilization that has and we hear I don't know. It's sorry. Anyways, very old civilization. The history goes way back for Iran, right? But the contemporary history of Iran is quite interesting because wouldn't you know it, America had a heavy hand in Iran, right? So this is just me piecing back information that I've learned recently. So back in the 50s, there was I can't remember the name right now. There was a leader elected, a prime minister. I think it was prime minister elected into parliament in Iran, right back in the 50s. Now there was the British were there. Um, they had oil companies there in Iran, and they were doing some shady stuff. So the that prime minister decided that he was going to nationalize the oil industry for Iran. So what ended up happening was the British got word of this. They didn't want it, so they asked America to get involved. And so America does get involved. CIA goes in and they start trying to build this support for overthrowing the democratically elected leader at the time. Now, also there was still a monarch there, but the monarch didn't really have a real say in how things were going to go. And so the CIA went ahead and they did this. They staged a successful coup in Iran in 1959, and they killed a lot of civilians ended up getting killed in the process because when the Shah took over at this point, Shah took over and was trying to and basically had a police force go and find anyone who was against the monarchy, who was part of that previous administration, and a lot of them were sentenced to death. A lot of civilian casualties as well. So the Shah is now in power for the next, almost 2 decades. Obviously, there was another revolution in 1979, and this was an actual popular revolution because the Shah was backed by America, right? So he's trying to keep power, and he's doing all of these. He's implementing all these oppressive rules. He was a pretty oppressive figure in Iran at that time. So they have this popular revolution, and that gives way for the supreme leader to come into power, the Ayatollah, right? And obviously, since then, America has just tried to have a heavy hand on Iran, right? There was a Gulf War that happened, right? That America had a hand in that, guys. Like, you have to understand. So when they say, "Oh, Iran has been at war with America for 47 years," they were the ones, behind IEDs that blew off your cousin's leg or whatever the fuck. It's just not really. It's not really true. And also, it's like, they're like, "Oh, they say death to America. They're our enemies." It's like, look at the history, bro. Look at the history. Look at the history. Why would they have such anti-American, anti-imperialist views? Because their country has been fucked over by it. That's why. That's why. Heavy sanctions on the country for the last, I don't know, 2 decades has been horrible. The JCPOA was some of the best legislation that's been passed, um, because it eased sanctions for Iranians, right? Or they were following the JCPOA. They were not enriching uranium to build a nuclear warhead, which they probably should have, but they needed those sanctions relieved. And so when people say, "Oh, Obama gave them, trillions of dollars," like, that was their money. Those were their frozen assets being returned to them in for being compliant with the JCPOA. That's what that was. Anyways, I need to stop talking about that because I did not go into detail about it because I only recently learned about it. So, um, but one thing that I really wanted to talk about today too, in the little bit of time that I have left, is this idea that, because I've been seeing this a lot on Twitter lately, and it's um sorry, did my email send? I sent an email to myself with some links, and I don't know if it sent. Yes, it did. All right. So, um so yeah, so on Twitter recently, I've been seeing a lot of shit libs talking about anti-Semitism, right? And basically blaming the left because there was there was two attacks that happened yesterday. There was one in Virginia, and it was a former National Guardsman who went to a university in Virginia, killed one and injured another, and then that person also died. Um, and he was in prison for 11 years, for like a potential terrorism charges. Is what he was convicted for, and he got out recently, back in 2024. He was released. So it's kind of interesting that he decided now to do something again on ROTC members. So that's interesting. The other one, which has had people have been more vocal about is the attack in West Bloomfield, Michigan, on a synagogue, which a man drove into a car strapped with explosives into the building, started shooting. Thankfully, nobody was hurt. Nobody was hurt on this. And I don't even think the explosives went off, but the car did catch fire. The car caught fire. People were able to get out, evacuate. The gunman was killed. And so people have been talking about this. They're like, "Oh, this is what happens when the left keeps up with their anti-Semitic rhetoric." Well, what do you mean anti-Semitic rhetoric? And so that's what I've been seeing a lot, because they've been doing this thing since the genocide in Gaza started, where any criticism against Israel or the Zionist ideology is, to them, anti-Semitic. But anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism are not the same. They just are not. Anti-Semitism is a bigotry against the people of the Jewish faith, right? Anti-Zionism is being against a certain ideology. The ideology between Zionism and Judaism is not the same. And look no farther than the fact that the biggest group of Zionists are actually evangelical Christians. It's not Jewish people. It is evangelical Christians make up the broad the broad number of Zionists, right? And so it's kind of like, well, you can't conflating anti-Zionism to anti-Semitism is very dangerous. And that's what the left has been saying for the last, they have been very vocal about for the last 2.5 years, is that saying that people cannot criticize Israel because it's anti-Semitic only gives fuel for the actual anti-Semites to be anti-Semitic. And that's exactly what we've seen. We've seen the right has such an anti-Semitism problem that you have Republican congressmen coming out and saying, "What the hell's going on with our party? Why are there so many anti-Semites in our party?" Right? I mean, some of the most prominent conservative voices right now are openly anti-Semitic. They're still doing they love what Israel's doing, but they are anti-Semitic. They don't like what some of them will say, "Oh, we don't like what Israel's doing because they're Jewish," right? They want to do. So I'm saying we as in the royal. I don't know how that works, but the right is saying that they want to do the type of thing that Israel is doing because they are fascist, right? Zionism is a fascist ideology, and so if you are anti-fascist, you are going to be anti-Zionist. If you're on the right, you could be a Zionist and be a anti-Semite. It doesn't. The two are. I can't stress enough that the two are not the same. And so, because the media and Israeli officials were coming out from the very start that Israel is conducting this genocide in Gaza in the name of Jewish people, it was only going to foment more anti-Semitism. You were only giving more fuel for the actual anti-Semites to be absolutely loud and bold about their anti-Semitism. That's why we're seeing so many anti-Semites on the right come out of hiding. You have group chats of young Republicans being extremely anti-Semitic, extremely racist, and just bigoted in general, right? And when you start calling people who are against what Israel is doing anti-Semites, you start downplaying what it means to be anti-Semitic. Because if someone says, I don't think children should die, look at Miss Rachel, guys. Look at Miss Rachel. Miss Rachel, one of the most amazing human beings on the internet, has been slandered as an anti-Semite because she said, I don't think kids should be bombed. You start calling someone like that anti-Semitic, you have completely taken away the weight of that word. And that is dangerous. That is absolutely dangerous. And that's why we've seen such a rise in anti-Semitic crimes, right? And we have to be able to distinguish between the two things. I saw when I was in Chicago, I went to several poster sessions because I wanted to see what people were doing research on. I came across this one where this the person was looking at anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. They were very important. It was very important part of this that they distinguished what it meant to be anti-Semitic and what it meant to be anti-Zionist. And what they found in their research was that anti-Semitism was a very prominent fixture in the on the right. Anti-Zionism was a prominent fixture on the left. The left does not have an anti-Semite problem. That's what the shit libs are trying to say. The shit libs are pointing fingers at the left for being anti-Israel because the left does not fuck with Zionism. Zionism is the problem, not Judaism. Whereas on the right, they see Judaism as the problem. Do you see the difference in what it in the two meanings? So and it's when you see obviously Democratic voters, a majority of Democratic voters are against giving funds to Israel. They are against policy and support of Israel, right? The majority are now in what's the word? The majority are now in support of the Palestinian cause, right? Among Democratic voters. And shit libs, and by shit libs, I mean the centrists, are seeing this, and it's freaking them the fuck out. And so they're trying to piece things back together. It's a platter. This platter has been shattered, and people are walking away from it. And they're just trying to piece every little part of it back together by saying that, hey, no, don't go away from us. This is where things need to be. Don't go that way. That's clearly showing that this platter is not gonna be held together anymore. That was a bad analogy. I gotta work on my analogies. Regardless, the centrists are really trying to keep the support for Israel going, and it's kind of like, why are you trying to do this when obviously that's not the popular support for that is gone? And they keep pushing for these centrist candidates who just back Israel with no kind of not even oh god, what's the word? With no kind of barrier. Like, they're just like all in on Israel. They keep throwing the support for these candidates. Let's look at who can we look at? We can look at Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib. Obviously, they're already in Congress. Rashida Tlaib being a Palestinian American, this is very important for her, right? Ilhan Omar is a black woman who is also a Muslim. And they have been they obviously they've been anti-Zionist, anti-Israel for a long time. They've never been anti-Semitic. And people are calling them anti-Semitic because they understand that Israel is an aggressor. Israel is a fascist state. Israel is an apartheid state. So they have been called anti-Semites for this exact thing. And so people will look at them and be like, oh, those are anti-Semites. And then you got someone on the right who's clearly saying anti-Semitic things, who clearly is engaging in anti-Semitic conspiracies. And they're like, oh, that person is also an anti-Semite. And they don't, but they're saying very anti-Semitic things. They're doing very anti-Semitic things as well, where the other two are just saying, hey, we shouldn't be killing people. We shouldn't be funding the killing of innocent people over there. When you do that, you again give way for that person on the right who's actually anti-Semitic to come in and just have a louder voice, because you're trying to silence the voices who are saying that no, Israel doing this and claiming this in the name of Jewish people is actually dangerous, and it's actually giving fuel for anti-Semites. Don't do that. Don't do that. And then you look at someone who has questionable history, right? Graham Plattner. Graham Plattner is oh, real quick before I get into Graham Plattner, my point was on Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar is that centrists hate them. They hate Ilhan Omar. They hate Rashida Tlaib because they are progressive and they are anti-Israel. I don't know why my background is so bright all of a sudden. So let's look at Graham Plattner, because he's running, right, for Senate in Maine, and he has very popular support among Mainers. Centrists are looking at him, and they keep pointing out the totenkopf tattoo that he had on his chest, right, which he recently got covered up and apologized for, and they're calling him anti-Semitic because of that. It's a very questionable thing that he did in his past, but when you look at what he is running on, he is he's running on a progressive platform. He is saying no to war. He is saying no to genocide. He has been very he's been a huge critic of Israel's behavior, and he is anti-fascist, and he's been anti-fascist for a long time, by the way. This is not anything new. But they look at that one instance and they go, oh, he's actually anti-Semitic. The left has an anti-Semitic problem because Plattner has, had that tattoo that he got covered, by the way. Everyone on the left who is criticizing Israel is now an anti-Semite. The left has this anti-Semitism problem, yada, yada, yada. But it's like you try to have a conversation like, hey, Israel is committing war crimes. They're literally over bombing Lebanon currently as the war in Iran is happening. They've displaced 750,000. They've killed almost 600 people. They're still doing the genocide in Gaza. But if you say that, you're anti-Semitic. And you're not, and the thing is, you're not saying they're doing it because they're Jewish. You're saying they're doing it because they're Zionists. Zionism is a fascist ideology. And it's insane to me that we constantly have to go back and forth on this. I mean, you have like Haaretz even coming out and saying that they've killed a lot of people. This is a genocide. I mean, Haaretz, the IDF admits they killed 70,000 Palestinians in Gaza. What other accusations could turn out to be true? It's paywall, so I can't read it right now. I'm not going around the paywall, but that's Um, you know, and it's like when you have the evidence of war crimes committed by Israel, what like you have the correct analysis, and centrists do not like analysis. Oh my goodness. Go away. Israel used widely banned cluster munitions in Lebanon. Images are first indication that Israel has used cluster munitions in nearly 20 years. Israel used widely banned cluster munitions in its recent 13-month war in Lebanon. Photos of munitions remnants in South Lebanon seen by The Guardian suggest the images, which have been examined by 6 different arms experts, appear to show the remnants of 2 different types of Israeli cluster munitions found in 3 different locations, south of Litani River and the forested valleys of Wadi Zipkin. I don't know how to pronounce these, I'm sorry. The evidence is the first indication that Israel has used cluster munitions in nearly 2 decades since it employed them in 2006 Lebanon war. It would also be the first time that Israel was known to have used the 2 new types of cluster munitions found: the 155 millimeter M999 Barak Eaton 227 millimeter Aram Eaton guided missiles. Cluster munitions are container bombs which release smaller submunitions called bomblets over a wide area. To date, 124 states have joined the Convention of Cluster Munitions, which forbids their use, production, and transfer. By the way, some would say, I'm not going to continue on this. Well, maybe. I don't have a lot of time. There was something else I wanted to talk about. But some would say that, Saudi, they were used in Yemen. Where was the outrage about that? Well, there was outrage. And guess who was doing that in Yemen? It was Saudi Arabia. Guess who was still an ally to the United States? Saudi Arabia. Just so you know. Because there's also been a lot of talk like, is Iran using cluster munitions? That's a war crime. Israel has been doing it too. We believe the use of cluster munitions is always in conflict with military's duty to respect international humanitarian law because of the indiscriminate nature at time of use and afterwards, said Tamar Gabelnick, the director of Cluster Munitions Coalition. Their wide area impact means they cannot distinguish between military and civilian targets, and cluster munitions remnants kill and maim civilians. Israel's war with Hezbollah, which started in October 2023, killed almost 4,000 people in Lebanon and about 120 in Israel, left the Lebanese militant group devastated. Much of Lebanon's south remains in ruins. Israel still carries out nearly daily airstrikes in the country despite ceasefire signed last year. So that's also a big part of it. Israel is a very belligerent nation. It is fascist. Its fascist tendencies. Its fascist tendencies are give fuel to their expansionist ideals. So for them, it's like, we're going to keep bombing, and no one's going to say anything about it because we have the support of America. We're just going to bomb. We're also getting bombs from America, so that that's cool. So we're going to bomb here, we're going to bomb there, and we don't care how many people we kill. We don't care that we signed a treaty. We're still going to do it. But if you fight back, we're under attack now. There's been a lot. The Israeli government is extremely, extremely fascist. Hold on. There's one more thing. There's so much, and I really gotta get going. Let's see. I guess quickly, I'm bringing this up because I just needed a quick way to express this. Comparisons between Israel and Nazi Germany occur frequently in the political discourse of anti-Zionism and part of the broader criticism of Israel. Given the legacy of the Holocaust and nature of these comparisons, particularly Whether they constitute anti-Semitism is a matter of fervent controversy. Comparisons between Zionism and Nazism have been made by academics, politicians, public figures, both Jewish and not, since before the establishment of Israel. Some scholars suggest that these comparisons can be rhetorical tools without any specific anti-Semitic intent, or they can be an informed and necessary response to Israeli policies or actions. Other states such comparison like historical and moral equivalence risk inciting anti-Semitism and may serve as a form of Holocaust inversion, denial, or minimization. By the way, we have a literal genocide happening in Gaza, and people are straight denying it. They don't care. The 70,000 number is conservative estimate because we don't know how many people are buried under rubble. During the 20th century, a wide variety of political figures and governments, especially those on the left, have invoked comparisons between Israel or Zionism and Nazism. In the 21st century, politicians who have made such comparisons include Turkish President Erdogan, Brazilian President Lula da Silva, Venezuela President Hugo Chavez, rest in peace, Colombian President Gustavo Petro, the GOAT, and so on, right? I wanted to look. There's so much. There's so much to point at. There's so much to point at, guys. I'm sorry. I can't get through it all. I wanted to quickly look at the 21st century. If you're interested, just look at this as a starting point, and then you can do more reading, which I plan to do as well. During the Israeli disengagement from the Gaza Strip in 2005, settlers donned yellow stars to compare themselves to Holocaust victims as part of their protest against the disengagement. A 2024 article by Haaretz, Israeli academics and former IDF soldiers, Nupar Ishay Crayan and Yoel Elizur, sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that, quoted an anonymous soldier who served during the first Intifada saying, "I felt like a Nazi. It looked exactly like we were actually the Nazis and they were the Jews." In 2016, Yair Golan, the Israeli general and deputy chief of staff of the IDF, sparked a controversy during a speech at Yom HaShoah. Golan alluded to manifestations of processes that occurred in Holocaust-era Europe. After criticism by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Golan said that he did not intend to compare Israel to Nazi Germany. "It is an absurd and baseless comparison, and I had no intention whatsoever to draw any sort of parallel to the criticism of national leadership. The IDF is a moral army that respects the rules of engagements and protects human dignity." By the way, Israel just decided that they are not going to charge the IDF soldiers that were caught on camera raping a Palestinian prisoner. They're just letting them go. So most moral army, the army that shoots children, most moral army, the soldiers that let Palestinian civilians bleed out in the West Bank, most moral. In 2019, he later again compared right-wing Israeli politicians to Nazis and warned that amid the rise of Israeli right-wing parties, Israel's democracy could be exploited similar to the Nazis' rise power to Germany. This drew criticism from the right in Israel. Also, by the way, there's literally a guy in there's a figure in Israel's government who literally has an entire page dedicated to his quoting of Hitler, by the way. Just so we are clear. It's bad. So, I'm sorry. I would love nothing more than to go more into depth on that, but I have to get going. I got some schoolwork to finish, but I wanted to just this helps me. This helps me so much, guys. Whether you're watching or not, just know that I'd love to come in and just talk about something that's on my mind. So thank you all. See you all next time. Peace.